The following is a tutorial on FLIR's ResearchIR standard software that comes included with FLIR's thermal benchtop test kits. Let's start by getting connected to the camera. I simply go to Camera, Select, and it finds all the infrared cameras from FLIR that are currently connected to my computer. In this case, the A65SC, which is part of the A65SC thermal benchtop test kit. I just select the camera and then click Connect. In a few moments, I'll get a nice, beautiful IR image that shows up. There we go. Anywhere I move my cursor, I can get a temperature value per pixel. Let's go ahead and do some image enhancement to make the image look a little bit better. We'll go to View, Palette, and I can choose from any number of color palettes to apply. I personally kind of like this 1, 2, 3, 4 palette, so I'll click on that. We can see the hotspots on the board and probe around and measure some temperatures. Well, let's say that I'm only interested in the temperatures on the board and not here in the background. I can go down and adjust the level and span by typing in a specific temperature range here, or I can just grab the handle on the left-hand side and bring up the bottom end. And on the top, for the top end, I just grab the handle on the right-hand side and I can squeeze that in as well. If I click in the middle, I can adjust the level as well. So this is how I adjust the level and span of how the color palette is being applied to the data. Now the nice thing is, even though I'm not showing any colors, I'm still getting temperature values per pixel. So all this does is just change the color palette and how it looks on the screen to my eyeball, but doesn't affect the source data underneath. Today I'm just going to go use the from image, which is an auto scale, and let everything auto scale. Well, today I'm looking at a printed circuit board, and what we're going to do is cool it down and record a movie as it heats up, perform some analysis, and then share the data, and shows different ways to export it. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to turn off the printed circuit board. You'll see it cool down here. And while that's happening, let's go ahead and edit our record settings to tell ResearchIR exactly how we want to record the data. To do this, I just go up here to the top, and there's an icon I hover over, and I have a few different options, and the one here on the far right is Edit Record Settings. So I'll click on that, and I have two different record modes available to me with ResearchIR Standard. I can record to disk or disk periodically. Let's take a look at record to disk periodically. Think of this more like a data logger. I specify a certain number of frames to record for a certain duration. Maybe it's a certain number of seconds or minutes. Then I can choose whether I want to stop after a certain number of frames are required, or just when I push the stop button. I can also go in and say how I want to save the data. Do I want to save each of the images to its own unique image file, or do I want to save them all into one movie file that's simple to grab on its own? I also have record to disk as an option, and that's the one I'm going to use today. Here I can specify the number of frames to record or a certain time duration, and I've set it up to record for 10 seconds. The third option here is I can just push a start button to start recording and a stop button to stop recording, which is nice as well. Let's just record for 10 seconds today. I have a few other options down here under record options. I can display images while recording, which means I may or may not drop frames. And so I can choose whether to check that box or not. If I leave it unchecked, it's going to freeze the image on the screen so I can maximize computer resources to record the data rather than displaying it. Today I'm going to leave that unchecked. I have a few other options here that you can learn more about in other ResearchIR tutorials, but let's go ahead and just give this movie a name. I've called it A65SC Benchtop Test Kit. It has a prefix of REC and then a counter that'll increment with each file that I record. So the first one's going to be 0 and then 1 and so forth. I also have naming options if I want to do a single snapshot, and I can include those here too as well. Today I'm just going to record a movie, so it looks like we're all set. We're going to record for 10 seconds, and the recording name is going to be REC A65SC Benchtop Test Kit, and then the counter is going to start at 0. So I'll click OK. We see our boards cool down relatively cooler than it was before, so now we just need to hit the record button. So up here in the options, I'll see that I can pause the image, record a snapshot, and there's the record movie, the nice red circle. So I'll click record and then turn on the board. Now again, remember I had chosen not to display images while I was recording, so we're not going to see any update on the screen while this records, but here after about 10 seconds, it'll finish the recording, and we'll see the resultant frame live now. There it is, and the board heated up that much while we were recording. The recording is down here, and I've already set the directory, so let's just double click on the file, and here it is playing back, and we see it heat up pretty quickly. I have a lot of playback options here for me. I can go to a specific frame. I can grab the handle and kind of move along here and manually move between frames by dragging left or right. I can fast forward or play forward or backwards, and I can even go one frame at a time by clicking one of these arrows here at the end. Let's add some analysis tools. Now we saw earlier that anywhere we move our mouse, we get a temperature value per pixel. We can also add a box, circle, line, single pixel spot, or a 3x3 pixel spot. I like this 3x3 pixel. It's kind of easy to grab, so I'm going to put that kind of maybe right there in the middle of this hot chip. And I'm going to grab a box, and maybe I'll add that around here so I can see that box. And then I'll grab a line profile as well, and maybe I'll throw that on this, maybe a diode or a resistor up here, and kind of put that across there. Let's take a look at the different analysis tools available, charts and graphs. So right now I have the line selected, so I'll go up here in the top left-hand corner, and I have the option to display a statistics viewer, a line profile plot, a time versus temperature plot. Let's grab the line profile plot since we have the line. And if I click and drag it off of there, you'll see that it's kind of stuck onto my mouse cursor as long as I'm holding the mouse button down. Now, if I move my cursor over these boxes here, I can either dock it to the right or below the image. In this case, I'm going to dock it to the right of the image, and now it becomes part of the main window. And I can slide this left or right to see more of my image or more of my line profile chart. Let's click on the cursor now, and I tell you what, this would be a good time to bring up the statistics viewer. So in this case, I'm going to click on that. It automatically threw it here in the container. So now I have a tab view where I can see the line profile or the stats. If I want to see both simultaneously, I just click and drag that off of there, and I can dock it on top, below, right, or left of that. Let's put it on top. So now I see that here. And now let's go ahead and click on the box here. It's green, so it kind of blends in there. If I right click, I can go in and change the properties of it. So let's say we want to change the properties and give it a different color. Maybe I'll make it a purple. And I could give it a unique name as well. This is a good part too to also show you can create local emissivities. So one of the things about IR is you want to always have the correct emissivity entered. And if I happen to have a board like this with different objects with different emissivities, I can create a local emissivity just by clicking on the emissivity and typing in a new value. Now, if perchance I don't happen to know the emissivity, I can calculate it here in ResearchIR. So I just heat my board to a known temperature, and then I can type that in here. So let's say, for example, the infrared camera is measuring 31.7 C, but the reality is it's really 33 C. I would calculate, and the emissivity should be 0.876, and I could then use that new emissivity. Today I'm going to leave everything kind of as the default, so I'll uncheck that, but I do want to change the color so I can see it a little better. Now that we have the box selected, let's do a time versus temperature plot. So I'm going to grab that, and in this case, I'm actually going to dock it below the stats. So now I can have 3 different items here showing up. And to make it a little bit more interesting, I'm going to click on that cursor again. I'm going to add that as well to the temporal plot. So I just drag it over, and you'll see the little addition sign. So now both of those will be charted out there. So let's jump back to the beginning and start playing through some of the data. Over here I have some object parameters I can adjust, but I'm not going to be working with those right now, so I'm going to hide that section so I can get more screen real estate. And what's fun is we see that nice rise in temperature over time. I'll go ahead and click stop, but you can see the 2 different options there. So now we've shown you some simple analysis available to you in the software. Let's see how to share data, because a lot of times you're going to want to share this with colleagues or maybe even customers, or export into a third-party software program. So at any point I can right-click on any of these different analysis tools and export it as a comma separated value file, basically an Excel file. Or I can hover over my chart here, and you'll see 2 little arrows show up, and I can save this as a bitmap. So if I wanted to put it right into a PowerPoint or maybe into a Word document, or I can export it as a comma separated value file, so I can export that out. And then I also have an option here to log the data set directly to a text file. So maybe I'm looking at live data, and I can be data logging this in real time. But I'll go back and go up to File Export and look at some of the ability to export the entire image. So if I choose the current image, or maybe I want to export the entire movie, let's take a look at the movie. I can export it as a Windows Media video file. So now I have a really nice color infrared movie that I can share with people, and they don't have to have the software to be able to see what's going on there. Really nice, intuitive way to share that data. Or I can choose current image, and of course there's the comma separated value file we've been talking a lot about, but there's also bitmap, PNG, and JPEGs. If I choose a JPEG, I can even choose the compression quality and some other items here. But the key thing is I just want to choose where I want to record it, save that file off to, and a few other options, and then I just hit export. So great ways to share data with ResearchIR Standard. If you have any further questions or want more information on specific features, we do cover that in the ResearchIR tutorials. I encourage you to check those out online or contact FLIR for more information. Thank you.